Hello everybody, my name is Jason Dang. If you are watching this video, you have seen my ad on Craigslist. I'm offering my services as a calculus tutor. In this video, I will be demonstrating my knowledge of Calculus 1. I would suggest watching this video on full screen so you can see all of the things I'm doing. That way, if you have any questions or anything, you can just leave a comment in the description or reach me via email. So, let's get right into it. Let us consider the following product. F of x is equal to x times 3 minus x divided by 2x squared. Sounds a little bit more difficult than it actually is, but there it is on the screen, so it's easier to read than me to speak it to you. So what do you do here? We have a product, and we have a potential quotient, and we have to figure out how to derive both of them. So let's go back to the basics. What is the product rule? If you were unaware or cannot recall, the quotient and product rule is right on the screen. The product rule is the derivative of f of x times g of x plus f of x times the derivative of g of x. Kind of a mouthful, but it's on the screen. The derivative of a quotient, or quotient rule, is g of x times the derivative of f of x minus the derivative of g of x times f of x, and that entire quantity is divided by g of x squared. Once again, definitely a mouthful, not an easy snack wrap. You should just copy it down. You will need this for reference in the future, and especially if you haven't already memorized it. But I definitely suggest you guys to memorize this. So, what's the general process here? 3 steps. I'm going to derive the product, I'm going to derive the quotient, and then we're going to simplify. That's how we're going to do this. Why? Because there's an inner function and there's an outer function. As you can see in the original problem, we have an inner function in the form of a product. But this whole thing is actually a division, so that would be the outer function, right? Let me suggest 2 things. First, let's make the numerator x times 3 of x, y. This will just make it easier for me to write it, and it'll be much simpler to understand. Secondly, let's just look at it like this. Y over the denominator is y over 2x squared. Looking at that, a lot less daunting. Let's use this and apply it to the problem. So, as you can see, the original problem is referenced up here, as along with what y is and what y over x is. So, let us look at the problem. Looks a little bit complicated, but let me explain everything. So, the whole outer function, as I stated before, is a division, right? So, what's the quotient rule? G of x. What's g of x? 2x squared. So here we have it. Times the derivative of f of x. What's f of x? It's y, right? Y is here. That's f of x. So let's do the y prime. Prime, of course, being the derivative. Now, what's the second part of the quotient rule? You have to subtract. Okay, so we have that. The derivative of g of x, see, right here, 2x squared. The dx over dy means the derivative. So that's gx, the derivative right here, times f of x being y. Much easier to write here. And this whole quantity is divided by g of x squared. So g of x being 2x squared, and now that quantity is actually squared itself. So very simple to look at. Now let's kind of solve the derivatives of both of these. That's going to be our next step. So the product rule. Now what's the product rule again? Oh, and up here is the last slide. What's the product rule? Well, it's the derivative of f of x. What's f of x here? It's actually x. So the derivative of x is what? 1 times g of x being 3 minus x. So we have that. Now you take that and you add f of x. What's f of x here? Just x. Times the derivative of g of x. What's g of x? As I've stated before, 3 minus x. The derivative of 3 is 0. The derivative of negative x is negative 1. Alright, so we cannot forget our secondary derivative here. So what's the derivative of g of x? G of x being 2x squared. Well, by using the derivative, you figure out that it's 4x, which is very simple because you multiply the constant by 2, which was the exponent. You take whatever the exponent number is, subtract it by 1, and there you have it. So 2x squared equals 4x. Times, what's y? I just plugged it back in here so it's easy to see now. So it's x times 3 minus x, this being the numerator. See? Not so difficult now. So now let's just distribute these and simplify. Once again, here's the last slide. So here we go. 2x squared, g of x. There it is. We're not changing that just yet. Now let's distribute 1 times 3 minus x. Very, very simple. 3 minus x. Let's also distribute the 1 to the negative x, which just makes it negative x. Let's distribute over here because the 4x is actually by itself in parentheses, so we have to solve this one because they're in parentheses first. X times 3 minus x. So that just becomes 3x minus x squared. And once again, that whole quantity is divided by gx squared, which is 4x to the fourth. Alright, so let's just simplify it further. So we have 2x squared still, which is the g of x. Now let's distribute 3 minus x. What does that become? 3 minus 2x right here. 3 minus 2x. Now let's distribute the 4x over to both of these. So that's 12x squared, because 4x times 3x is 12x squared, minus 4x cubed. There you have it. And this is still 4x to the fourth because we have yet to go to the final step. So once again, just a little more simplifying. Let's distribute the 2x squared over. So you multiply that by 3 minus 2x, which we've previously solved. So that becomes 6x squared minus 4x cubed. And we subtract it by 12x squared plus, this is a tricky one, 4x cubed. A lot of people will make that mistake when they're too focused on things. Of course, you distribute the negative. That's why it becomes positive, because a negative and a negative do make a positive, because there's actually a negative 1 here, but that's for a different discussion. And divided by 4x to the fourth. So the final step right here is you just simplify. 6x squared minus 12x squared. That equals negative 6x squared. Negative 4x cubed plus 4x cubed cancel each other out. Nice and easy 0. That whole thing divided by 4x to the fourth. Divide everything by 2x squared because you can, because here's your almost finished product. And the finished product is here. What's 6x squared divided by 2x squared? A nice and clean 3. And 4x to the fourth divided by 2x squared is actually 2x squared. Because of the exponential rule, when you divide exponents, you actually subtract 4 minus 2 is 2. Obviously, 4 divided by 2 is 2 itself. So, there you have it. You finished a complex problem. Give you guys selves a pat on the back, because that was definitely a difficult problem for a lot of students who are just getting into calculus. I want to thank you all for watching. And all my contact information will be in the description, my Craigslist ad, my resume, anything like that, my rates. If you guys found this video informative, be sure to, leave a comment in the description. Any questions or anything like that, my Gmail will be in the description. And I want to thank you guys for all watching, and have a nice day or night, depending on where you are and when you are watching this. Bye now.